This is my profile on Amazon. I'm starting out with this today for a reason I'll explain in a minute. This is also my Kindle Fire in its stand. I'll make this a little bit smaller so you can see what I'm trying to get to this time. You see under contributions, I'll slide that over a little bit. There's a tab there, and then another tab that says Listmania. I'll try to get that a little bit closer. Listmania lists. Yeah, Listmania lists. And that's one of the books I've reviewed and also done a video on. This one to read by John Cassell. One of my latest posted reviews. And the Listmania list here is what I'm going to click on. And then show you where that goes. And that'll relate to what I'm doing today. Okay, I clicked on Listmania. Give you a little bit of a connection to what we've been doing here. There's my picture again, and under contributions you can see that the Listmania list is highlighted. And it shows just a few of the items on that list. There are 40 items. And it's going to show a lot of the different lists that you'll see here. I'm not sure if you can read that. It says show and see entire list. I'm going to click that. And then I'll turn this so it'll be a little bit easier to see. Now there's a blurb on top about the list. And then as you go down the list, you'll see different items are listed, shown, and listed. And you can move the page up to see more items. And I'm expanding it a little bit. The first I'm listing them mostly in the priority of how I use them. I'll go back up to the very top of the list here. Top part of the list are the two main transdermal magnesium sprays. And then everything on this list anyway, there are 40 products. Some are magnesium, some are organic foods. And I have several levels of explanation there. I start out with a little blurb on each product, and then if you click on the product, you'll go to that page, the main page on Amazon, where you'll find the reviews and all the details relating. And on all these products on this page, I've written not only lengthy reviews, but lengthy lists of comments. There's enough there to put a compile and put a book, at least one, maybe more than one, on Kindle relating to studies and research I've done on magnesium as it connects to certain products that I use. Now, I should state that pretty much everything I've reviewed on Amazon I've purchased, and purposely, even when I could have been given free products to review frequently, including books from people that want their books reviewed. Never been offered a product by any of these companies, and I'm happy about that because I want to buy things and review them. That way I'm more in control of what I want to say, even though so far I've not, that I remember, I've not done a review under 5 stars. If there's anything that's an issue with a product, I'll mention that if I think it's important, and if it hasn't been exposed already by other reviews. But I would prefer to spend my time giving information about things that I think are highly valuable, and let other people do the dirty work of writing about things they think are somehow flawed or might even be involved in some type of con or something. I just like to share things that I think are good. Now, about magnesium, if you've read any of my reviews or some of the other videos I've made here, from the research I've done all my life, and especially currently, I've done a lot of reading and studying. A lot of the most vital information, actually, of effect comes from reviews on Amazon of these magnesium products. And it's fairly easy for me, and I think for most people, to determine which reviews might be written by somebody with an agenda and which ones seem to be written by somebody that are honestly describing how the product worked or didn't work for them personally. Let me step back here for a minute and connect to the overall picture, and then get into more detail about this product that I think is, I agree with Dr. Mark Circus, and he might be quoting other people too, that magnesium is the lamp of life. The chlorophyll at the center of the nucleus is mainly magnesium, and that's supposedly, according to research, what translates the sunlight to the plant in chlorophyll. Dr. Mark Circus explains this a lot better than I just did in his book, and I've also got that book listed here on my Listmania. It's the transdermal therapy, magnesium transdermal therapy. I'll look through here to double check. Yeah, transdermal magnesium therapy, a new modality for the maintenance of health. And I'll make that one a little bit bigger and show you that on my list. This is one of the best books, I think, to describe the vitality, the primary essence of this mineral for the life force and health. To give one example that Dr. Magnesium, that's pretty good. Dr. Mark Circus, that was really a good one, you see. If you want to know what UC is, capital U, capital C, then you can read Molasses Moon, or watch all 47, 48 videos that read it aloud with current comments relating to the present. Let me go show a little bit larger picture of this book, because I think it's got a really neat cover. It's not blowing up too well, though. Here it would do better on the product page. Looks like I accidentally got to the product page. This is probably one of the most vital books you might read. And I think that's a really neat picture. That will relate very well to what I want to get into with my own speculations and intuitive input on this mineral. Okay. So Dr. Mark Allen Circus is actually one of my favorite experts on magnesium. He has some videos on YouTube that are excellent, very short, succinct, and say a lot. And what I was getting to before I showed you the book cover here is one of the things that he recommends, along with the magnesium transdermal spray that he also recommends most highly through Ancient Minerals. It's the blue spray bottle on the top of my list there. One of the things he recommends is there are also flakes of this magnesium chloride that is used for most of these transdermal sprays. They're called magnesium oil, but they're actually a brine water, a salt water. This magnesium comes in a salt form, the magnesium chloride. A lot of them now are getting it through the Zechstein seabed in the Netherlands, because that's a mile down. It's been, of course, buried through time. And so they send pipes of water down into where the salt crystals or flakes are found and force water into it, dissolve it, then pull it back up. And a lot of the higher quality magnesium oil sprays, brine waters, are obtained through that Zechstein seabed or other sources that they find that are more pure, that have fewer trace minerals or less trace minerals that are not really an issue on the parts per billion or per billion amounts. Let's see. Okay, the recommendation that gives one of the best examples of what magnesium can do through actual use transdermally. Transdermally just means absorbing it through your skin. And I have one of the theories I want to discuss today. There are theories, speculations, intuitive hits, or even science fiction, possibly, because I do have a wild imagination. I write science fiction, and I have a wild imagination. So everything I say, of course, I'm not an expert on anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm not an authority. I don't want to be. This is just my own personal research, personal opinion, personal intuitive conclusions. And actually, I don't know if I should call them conclusions, because I keep an open mind on almost everything and change it if need be if I find information that's more accurate. How would you like to take some of these flakes? I didn't put any of those up here on the table to show you, but they're beautiful white crystalline flakes, and I did show them in my video that is on YouTube and also on Amazon on the product page of the Ancient Minerals magnesium chloride spray in the blue bottle, the blue 8-ounce bottle. It's also on my list. Actually, the flakes I'm talking about here are also on my list mania. They're what you can dissolve in a bathtub or in a water for maybe a foot bath. He recommends 8 pounds of these flakes to be used in a bath, either for athletes or trying to strengthen themselves up before a major event, athletic event, strengthen their body, or for people that are so severely deficient and so severely ill for some reason, they need extra help from what magnesium can do. Basically, this mineral does almost everything the body needs, from making enzymes and hormones needs cholesterol to do this, and that's part of what I want to discuss a little bit further today. But they recommend using 8 pounds of these magnesium flakes in a normal bathtub to soak in. And they recommend if you're really ill to maybe do this 3 times a week for 3 weeks or so in order to really get a head start on a cure. And he also says that, Dr. Mark Circus, the 8 pounds of magnesium is still less than what you would get in a swim in the ocean. Okay, so this brings us to the major part of what I wanted to say today. It's a theory that I have, actually, that shows why people that try that decide, oh, well, magnesium's the hottest thing, it's important, I'm going to see if I can get enough of it in my system. First thing they do might be to go buy a bottle of pills that supposedly have magnesium in them, and not read the label, not realize that they have a lot of other stuff in them, or they might have calcium connected with the magnesium. And most other minerals, most other entities or items that would be involved in supplements or medications or even foods are not in the type of balance that would allow magnesium to be the priority. So it's not really going to do you that much good. The other problem, because all these other minerals and things that are combined, what's in almost everything today that's around us and that we eat, will cancel or defeat the magnesium. This is one of the reasons the deficiency of it is so high. So, alright, the ocean, the transdermal, the oral, when you take it orally, even if it's a good capsule that is mostly magnesium and nothing else, you can only take so much before you have the type of diarrhea that would be overboard. Now, I actually invite a certain amount of the liquid, or loose they call it, because for me, I came to such bad shape with my bowels before I started taking a different type of magnesium that I was to a point that I probably would have needed to have all of my lower bowel removed. Now, I'm not going to go into detail on that, but it was serious and painful. And if it weren't for what I finally ended up using mostly, this is magnesium oxide powder, 100% pure powder. And some of the problems when they say it's a 100% pure powder, and they don't say what specific type of powder right after the pure, then it might be a powder that's pure powder, pure powdered form, but it might have a whole bunch of stuff in it. So labels nowadays, it's kind of disgusting and really sad, but you have to be careful how you read them, because there are certain people that provide foods and drugs that purposely try to hide what's in something, trying to reach a market and trying to be sure that people will buy their product and won't be scared away. But on this one, it also has on the label, which I appreciate, and I'm not sure if I can put this up there to actually be read. Yeah, I can. Contains no yeast, milk, wheat, gluten, egg, corn, or soy. Now, most of those things I don't really care. I don't have a problem with yeast or milk or wheat or gluten, egg. I do with corn or soy, as I've mentioned in other videos, because soy is in absolutely everything, and it's real easy to OD on it, and then the estrogen effect and the other anti-nutrient effects of what they call it when they gets rid of your minerals or won't let them be used. I don't remember, but mostly I want to stay away. The corn, one of the reasons they put that on there is most corn nowadays has been put into the hands of the people that do genetic modification and mix things one way or another with soy. Back to the magnesium oxide. that's what I finally started taking, the powdered form like that that's pure. Because I don't really want even what's in the gelled capsules. And it's tasteless enough. It's just a white powder. I don't think you're going to be able to see it very well if I turn it up, maybe. Yeah, I guess you can kind of see it a little bit. It's just a plain, pure white powder. Saved my life many times. The problem, though, even with that pure form, or this other one, that I finally found, whenever I can find something in a truly pure powdered form without the capsules with the gelatin in them or anything else that's needed in capsule form, that I'll buy it, usually. Now with those, the magnesium oxide powder, its normal dosage to start with is a 1/4 teaspoon, whereas the magnesium citrate is a whole teaspoon. And that shows you a little bit how much magnesium oxide has more of elemental magnesium in it than most, even in the citrate, than most forms of magnesium. I prefer the oxide, even though a lot of doctors, probably almost all of them, the experts in magnesium, agree that it's not very bioavailable. They base that on the fact that it usually just goes through your system, and you can only get a certain amount before you have diarrhea to the point that you have to back off. What I started doing, I'm not sure I should even mention this because I have not read anywhere that there have been any tests on whether it's safe or not. But I started using the powder transdermally in the same ways that you can use the magnesium chloride brine water spray. This is the one that I use fairly frequently, and I've shown this before in videos. Eight-ounce spray bottle. That's the one that's mostly used, sprayed on your skin transdermally. The reason I started using the oxide also, magnesium oxide powder, is sometimes I wanted to spray the chloride brine on my chest to try to get it to go directly into the heart better. But to start with, my chest was the skin so sensitive and maybe thin, I'm speculating on that, without enough fat and fatty acids stored in it, that it would just be so sensitive it would even make welts. And I think that ultimately, if I could have kept up with it, eventually it just heals the skin and makes it stronger so that it actually can accept it better. They also recommend that you add water if you need to dilute it a little bit if your skin is sensitive. But I could use it most places, and I've sprayed it on the back of my neck liberally every day, sometimes several times a day, for a couple years now. And that hasn't really caused a problem. Once it started getting a little bit sensitive and I backed off for a while, but then started up again. But I could put the magnesium oxide on my chest and other places that were sensitive. It's dry, of course, a powder, and I just use it dry. You wouldn't think it would go on your skin that way, but it does. One of the ways you can test it if you want to is instead of using deodorant, and I do that now 100% of the time and have for about a year, just put the powder under your arms as a deodorant, and you'll find that you'll have no odor. And also, for me, it's a good way to impart the magnesium oxide transdermally. Dr. Circus has recommended using the magnesium oil or chloride brine spray water as a deodorant, and he has said, I've read in some of his books, that you can spray it under your arms and that it is a good way to impart it into your system that way, since your lymph nodes are there. So I've had, and I did do that to start with, but again, it got to be a little bit too sensitive for my skin. I think part of that reason is when you're older, your skin actually gets thin and it isn't as strong. So that younger people might be able to do this without, an issue. But I switched to the oxide powder because that worked actually more effectively as a deodorant for me. A funny little aside is my husband and I both got to a point, I did first, that periodically I'd notice I had an odor, under an armpit odor, that had a very strange smell. It smelled like hamburgers. And the reason I know that's what it smelled like, but not good hamburgers, not spoiled hamburgers, but hamburgers in a stinky way that you really wouldn't want exuding from your armpits. Later, I hadn't told this to my husband, but later on, he said he noticed that his armpits were smelling really strange, and he said, "It smells like hamburgers." And I happened to notice it on him one day too, and I said, "Yeah," and I had that once before, and I told him about it and how I got rid of it with the magnesium oxide powder. And he's been a little bit sold on the benefits of transdermal input and oral input. I always do both because I need the oral to maintain the bowel function to a very healthy point and with no more bleeding and no more pain. It's been that way for a year. And Dr. Farrell recommended that keeping the bowels closer to loose or liquid in actually several or more than one movements in a 24-hour period, according to some of the holistic health practitioners, including Dr. Farrell, might be a healthier type of regularity than what has in the past been considered normal. I agree with that, but in my case, I didn't have a choice. I'm sort of thankful, especially for that powder, because it was getting to the point that sometimes it was harder to take the capsules. And other than magnesium oxide, capsules of other forms might be larger because they need more for a dosage, since they don't have as much elemental magnesium within a certain amount of the combined magnesium product. I also started using the magnesium oxide on my chest areas that were sensitive, on my back, on my feet. I got to the point where I kind of liked the powder rather than the water, even though for some purposes the magnesium chloride spray is stronger and it seems to be more effective, especially in a crisis immediate need situation. Like when I'm having huge cramps all across the abdominal area from when magnesium gets really low, and they can get pretty scary and pretty bad. In that case, I'll use the spray because it seems like it might go in a little quicker. And sometimes even just pour it on if there's an emergency type situation. Also, one time I cut this finger and sliced it 2 ways, fairly deep, and it was bleeding pretty heavily. And luckily, as it was by the kitchen sink, I had the magnesium chloride spray and some oxide real handy. So I rinsed it off real well with cold water, and then I kept spraying it with the magnesium chloride spray and the oxide. Packed it with both after it got to the point where it was not bleeding so profusely that it would stay on there. To start with, though, I saw the cut and I thought, oh dear, this is salt water. When I spray it, an open cut, a deep one like that. But I knew it would help, and it was the best thing I could do. For me, I've learned over and over. These are great first aid usage. I gritted and held myself ready for the intense burning, sprayed it on there liberally, and to my very pleasant surprise, not only did it not burn, it took away the burning pain instantly. Now, this is what happened to me, whether it will work that way for you. And again, I'm not a doctor, So you have to realize this is my opinion, my evaluation of cause and effect by my experience, and I could be wrong. Anybody, including the best doctors, can be wrong. But since I'm not a doctor, and keep in mind this is my experience, my interpretation of it. But I've done that with cat scratches, with almost everything that I've sprayed immediately. And when it is a scratch like that, it doesn't burn. And now my husband has mentioned that I think, unlike welding burns or something like that, it might burn like heck. I don't know for sure. But it might not be as good on an actual burn. A serious burn, I really don't know. I haven't experimented with that. What I usually do with a real serious burn in the past, before I knew about magnesium, is just always kept an aloe vera plant around, and you cut off a leaf and squirt out the gel. And I did that one time on a burn on my finger and thumb. I grabbed a teapot. I had boiled it dry. It was copper, and the spout had actually, the welding had melted off. And like an idiot, without thinking, I picked up the spout that had actually been hot enough to burn off of the teapot. And it was so hot, of course, it burned my finger and thumb horribly, and it was extremely painful. And I was luckily at a friend's house that had an aloe vera plant, and I went and cut it and smeared it all over my finger and thumb where the burn was. And I noticed it took away the pain right away. And then wasn't long, a few minutes later, it started burning really bad again, so I had to keep reapplying it repeatedly for an hour. I think it was a bad enough burn. And finally, it got to the point that the burning pain wouldn't come back anymore, and I just kept it on there overnight. I think it was by the next morning you couldn't even tell it had been burned. So now I might try the magnesium, but though that the aloe vera plant, at least I do from my experience, works well. Now this wasn't an open wound burn. It was just, the skin was still intact. So other situations, I don't know, just my own experience. But anyway, I was surprised that the magnesium chloride brine water didn't burn in an open cut in my case. And I kept alternating both the magnesium chloride spray, and then I would also pack magnesium oxide in there. That also helped slow down the bleeding. And I kept repeating that until it quit bleeding, and rinse it off, and then dry it. And when I could get to the point where the spray and the oxide powder would stay in the wound, it wouldn't bleed out again, I'd wrap it and then keep it on there, periodically change it. And that cut too healed within a week, and it was very deep. So, okay. I was going to talk about something else, and I just got into the first aid stuff, but the other important thing now, what I was going to talk about first, is there are several types of coconut oil that are good, and I have on my Listmania. This one's the one I've sort of settled into recently to use. My routine now in the morning, and it's been different in the past, but the one I've settled into and used for quite a while now, is I put the coconut oil generously on my hand, and then I'll rub it on my face, neck, various parts of my body first, because the body seems to be thirsty for that oil. And coconut oil is a medium chain fatty acid, and if you want to learn more about it, and it's a good idea if you want to use it regularly, there are a few different types of coconut oil on my Listmania too that I showed to start with. There are several types that are good. Nutiva is a very good one. Now Foods has one that's good. There are some other brands too that are very good. Barlean's, I think, is good. Like I say, there are several. Just you want pure coconut oil, organic, and cold pressed. And it should look white because you don't want it bleached. It's too much processing. just a white, kind of a solid. Normal temperatures, it's kind of like butter, the consistency. When it gets colder temperatures, it gets pretty hard. You don't need to store it in the refrigerator because it's a healthy enough fatty acid that sometimes it's got a 2-year shelf life just in the cupboard. You want to keep it away from light and too much heat too long. But I've had mine be in the bathroom in the summer, and it'd get hot enough that it could go clear to liquid, like a liquid oil, and then go back to solid. And I never really found that to cause any type of a problem. So I usually put the coconut oil on my skin first. I couldn't use as much to start with, though, because I was so deficient in magnesium that even the majority, the coconut oil has more potassium in it than anything other minerals. And potassium in great amounts can actually cancel the magnesium. So at first I would use coconut oil on my skin and it would start cramping if I didn't get the magnesium in quick enough or in a great enough amount. It wasn't until, I don't know, it was almost a year of use of magnesium that I was able to use as much coconut oil as I wanted. I was using it in cooking and on my hands and as chapstick, but I wasn't able to use it really liberally all over my whole body until I started using the magnesium oxide powder and the spray for quite a while, to where I got more of the issues that magnesium was taken care of in a little bit of a stable place. Now I can use coconut oil liberally to start with all over my face and neck and arms and hands and legs and feet, back of my neck, actually almost all over my body. And I can do that just first. And I use it on my hair. And even at night, I've put quite a bit of it. The day you don't want it too oily, but and usually the lower strands of your hair are pretty dry, and I'll put coconut oil there in the morning. So once I have all that taken care of, then the next thing I'll do is apply the magnesium oxide everywhere I want that. And then after that, I'll usually spray the magnesium chloride brine, usually on the back of my neck liberally. And I'll usually put it on thighs and rear where you have a lot of padding, because there I can handle that every day and it doesn't get sensitive. And on my feet, I've already put the oil on there. It does seem to help too with the coconut oil first, and there are times even that I can put coconut oil on my chest now and spray the magnesium oil brine water and leave it on all day, and it's okay, or at night, and it won't burn or cause welts or anything. And that really helps now that my skin maybe has gotten stronger over the regimen of almost 2 years now, that it is less sensitive. This is all pretty important, but it takes a lot out of me to try to get as much of this into one video as I can. Now, with the fatty acids, or the fats, coconut oil is what they call a medium chain fatty acid, and you have the long chain and then the short chain. Just intuitively, I feel like the stronger saturated fats that are harder to break down are the longer chain ones. Short chain coconut oil supposedly is easier on your liver and can go straight to the liver without having to go through your some type of a process to break it down. Anyway, the point is, if you read Dr. Bruce Fife's books or input, he says that scientific experiments have shown that it is one of the easier oils for your liver to process. I find that to be true because I haven't had any type of indication that it creates any kind of a hardship on the liver. My theory then that I was going to start the video with is that your body could probably survive And again, this is just my theory, speculation, intuitive opinion. And it does kind of fit with a lot of the study and research I've done. There was a time that I thought I wasn't going to be able to eat anymore because I had so much soy in my system that my body all of a sudden started purging it, and I started vomiting very heavily, and it was very painful because I was so deficient in the magnesium with the soy kicking it out that I was having cramps all over my abdominal muscles while I was trying to vomit, and I couldn't keep vomiting because I kept cramping. So I was vomiting and then spraying and pouring the magnesium oil on my stomach to quit the cramps, to be able to finish doing more vomiting. And I couldn't even drink water. Just went through a period of, I think it was 12 hours. I was concerned that I wasn't going to be able to keep any of the magnesium oxide down, so my bowels would quit working. It was pretty scary. That was one of the times more than any I've ever experienced, and there have been several with a poor liver, that I wasn't going to make it through that one. It was pretty scary. Now, was I going to connect that with the, okay, at that point, I felt that just with the magnesium chloride spray, and I would need to be able to keep down, I was taking tablets then. Now I'm glad that if something like that came up, I probably would be able to put the magnesium oxide at least in my mouth, and it would go in that way. You need to get the magnesium oxide in through your intestines to keep the bowels working right. Usually when you put it transdermally, the magnesium oxide or the oil, that's one advantage for people that have good bowel function, is that it will go into your body and stop cramps and other issues that way and deal with problems from magnesium deficiency, but it won't, you might, I don't know, I haven't had to try, you might have to use quite a bit before you'd be able to get the intense bowel function that you get through using it orally. But my thought then was, that's all I need. If I could spray the magnesium, I could probably stay alive without being able to eat. Later I decided that there's two things you need. It would be magnesium and some type of, probably coconut oil. I felt like with those two things, even just transdermally. Of course, St. Teresa has proved that you can get by just on sunlight. So that gets me to my next point. This is a sci-fi type theory, speculation. What I know about magnesium from studies and experience. I feel like the human race started somewhere on the earth, on the shore of an ocean or a sea. And this, the way I'm feeling it, might have been before Adam and Eve. It might have been before, very probably was before history as we know it. That on that place, in that place, by the ocean, with your typical things you'd have in a tropical island or a tropical by the ocean type place, in when the weather is just year-round, comfortable. There might have been some harsh weather, I don't know, but living on the ocean, that with the amount of magnesium that is in the ocean, just the ocean breezes, walking around it, what it would, through the breezes and the tides, there would be plenty of magnesium on the shore, in the sand, in the breezes, and just in the proximity, that it would then be in the sand and go into and on anything growing, that possibly coconut palms or coconuts had literally magnesium being imparted transdermally, as well as probably through the soil. There would have been probably quite a bit of it in the soil. But it's possible that most of our needs for magnesium, and you would have received a lot just by being near an ocean, and in a natural state, that we might have regularly received enough magnesium transdermally that way. And then the coconut oil on the coconut palms and just through the coconut meat. And it's very possible that most of the fruits that would have grown, or the things that would have grown naturally in that type of an imaginary paradise, would have probably just had those two things in abundance. And just walking in the sand and in the water and soaking your feet in the water would have given you way more probably than I've been able to input with. Sometimes now I'm up to using a whole one of these 8-ounce bottles. Let's see, where's the weight showing? Of magnesium oxide. Sometimes I'll use almost that much on my skin in a week, because I'm still desperately needing it for many bodily functions. I still only take a 1/4 teaspoon of it at night and in the morning, and I just measure it, with a measuring, and I prefer to get not aluminum, stainless steel, because magnesium will bond with other. We'll also try to remove them. Anyway, I try to stay as pure as I can, even though these things come in plastic bottles, and they are sealed with little pieces of things that look like they have some kind of a metal thing on them. But I'm so far not finding any detrimental effects from the way they're supplied. Okay, so originally our main input of magnesium might have been transdermally through our skin, and then somewhat through foods, if what we ate then was things that were just readily available from trees and plants. So what I'm getting at too is, I don't think, my theory is that it might not be possible to get enough magnesium as some of the current doctors and people are just assuming. I don't think we can get enough through foods. I've studied all the foods that supposedly are high in magnesium. Well, you don't really know what a particular thing you're eating, even if it says it has a certain number of milligrams of magnesium in it. That particular piece of produce or fruit or whatever that you're eating, there's no guarantee that it has that amount. And even if it does, by studying the other minerals that are also in foods, most foods, even high in magnesium, are also high in either calcium or potassium or phosphorus, or a combination of other minerals, that if in higher amounts than the magnesium, can overwhelm it. Because for every other mineral to work, especially calcium, you need the magnesium, according to Mark Serkis's book. And I better wrap this up. I know it's too long. But you need... now I've lost this train of thought. Maybe I should go ahead and stop here. That might be enough. The main thing I was going to say is that I think if you had coconut oil and magnesium, some of the ways I've said to impart it here, especially transdermally as well as orally, then eating other foods might just be entertainment. You might need the calories, you might need some things in them, but I think everything else you could get by cravings and taste and smell. Say you needed some zinc, or you needed a lot of these things come in trace amounts in what you get in these magnesium combinations. They all have trace amounts of other minerals. I think whatever else you happen to need at the moment for your dynamic chemical balance that your body's constantly going through and maintaining and changing and shifting, that your taste buds and cravings would tell you what you need, and just through the process of normal eating that we would just continue to do through entertainment, that the rest of what you need would be through taste. And here again, this is my speculation. I could be wrong. So you go by what you think, and of course what your doctors say, that doctors that you trust. But that's what I feel for me. And with that, what it just makes me feel a lot more comfortable. A lot less fearful of all the things that are in foods that I don't like or would prefer not to have. And that if I couldn't eat because of going through another one of those crises phase of needing to purge, as long as I have those things. Supposedly, according to Mark Circus and other doctors, with enough magnesium input stored into your cells correctly, it can also reverse aging. I believe that too, even though I really don't want to live forever. But I believe that even if you were to get so healthy and become what some people theorize, a race of elders, or you become ageless and just might be here as an elder, what else could I call it, in the highest sense of knowledge, wisdom, power, to assist, just be here for an anchor or whatever. That even if you came to that point of being ageless, that when you were ready to go to another reality, to the other side, to go through what they call death, or it might just be just an ascension, that you would have that choice. So you would still not be trapped here in a body when you're ready to leave, immortal when you don't want to be immortal, especially at that point of elder status or whatever. I think you'd have much more of a choice, just to immediately ascend, or even immediately leave with your body with no presence left behind, including nothing that, just what you might not want to leave anything behind. So the latest sci-fi this time. I hope I haven't gone over so much that I couldn't even upload it, or they wouldn't accept it on YouTube. Because this one I think is important. And if not, maybe it's just good science fiction. So, ready to sign off again today, March 21st, 2012. Wednesday is when I'm recording this, and I'll upload it, I don't know when. This will be video number 63, and I haven't uploaded 61 and 62 yet. Those both are giving a lot of astrological input. Hope this helps somebody. Good luck with your health, and I'll talk to you next time.